Yay. Okay, so this week, hello, welcome everybody to Walk It Free Challenge. So, last week we've talked a little bit about defining our goals and the specific goals that we've had. And I had some trouble to record because my computer obviously was out of space and I have it recording somewhere. I haven't found it yet. So be patient. It will be emailed to you. It recorded somewhere. I just have not found where, but hopefully today will be better. I've got the recording set. So today we're going to be talking about prioritizing short-term and long-term objectives. It's really the mastering the art of goal setting. And it's really it's important to set goals because we need to avoid burnout, right? We can do it all, but we cannot do it all at the same time. And unfortunately, that is something that so many of us are trying to do. We are trying to do everything and we feel less than because we're not accomplishing all the things that we are wanting to do. And the reason for that is simply that we are attempting too many things at the same time, and then we fall short and we form a belief that we cannot do it and that it's not for us and that we're not supposed to and all those things. So in fact, there's nothing wrong with us not being able to do it. It's just we are trying to do too many things at the same time. So we have to learn how to prioritize our goals and how to divide them between short-term and long-term goals. Okay, so that's what it is. So characteristics of effective goals. Not every goal is effective, and we have to kind of learn on that. We have to make them specific. First of all, they have to be specific in all these different areas that life has to offer: your health and your wellness, your relationships, your career, your personal life, your spiritual growth, whatever section of life you are currently working on. You need to make whatever goal that you have specifically clear, very, very clear. Then you have to put in a measure. Okay, you have to measure it of some sort. Then you have to figure out how to make it achievable, and it has to be relevant and it has to be time bound. Okay, we talked about this a little bit. I'm going to talk about this more in detail next week, right? That's going to be more in detail next week. I'm just touching on right now what these goals and as I'm talking about it, you can already see the complexity. I can't say that word. What is it? Complexity. Complexity of goal setting. Okay, we're chucking it off like, oh, we're having a goal this and we're having a goal that. And when you really understand what it will take to set a goal that will be effective, you have to make it specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. And then you have to make it in all these different areas of life. If you don't break it down and prioritize them from short-term goal to long-term goal to important to not that important to, later in the future, if you don't do that work, you are not going to win because it's going to be overmounting, overwhelming feeling of like, I don't even know where to start, so might as well not do it. And it's like throwing something at the wall and seeing what sticks, right? Like you have a paint platter, a whole bunch of paint. Okay. Imagine your wellness goal is a green paint. Imagine your relationships is fiery, passionate red. Your kids are blue for like loyalty, right? Whatever. I mean, you pick the colors, it doesn't really matter, but you pick those colors. And then you have a paintbrush, right? And you're just going to be like, okay, today I'm going to do a little green, a little bit of wellness, a little bit of this and a little bit that, and you just splatter all this stuff on the wall. And yes, there's something that comes out of it, but it's not really productive because you don't have no patterns. You don't have you just have a mess, right? You have a mess on your hand. So what I want you to think about when you're thinking about your goals, I want you to really have all your paints and figure out what is my room color, what is my room supposed to look like, right? Your room symbolizes your life. What do I want this to look like? And many of us are not taking the time to ever think about this. This is where personal development comes in, right? We have to take the time to think about what is our room look like. Some people like gray, some people like green, some people like blue, some people like yellow, some people like cold rooms, big rooms, small rooms, fine, everyone is different. Take the time to decide and design what your room really should look like. Okay. And then, if you want a cozy room, you might want to have neutral colors. So what would that mean in terms of your wellness, for example? Okay. If you have no goal of becoming a bodybuilder, why do you need 5 hours in the gym? You don't. Right? If your goal is to be flexible enough to sit on the floor with your children, you need supplements, to make sure you have inflammation under control. You need to have healthy eating patterns, that you don't eat inflammatory foods. And you have to be able to do some kind of stretchy fitness mobility workout that will actually get you flexible enough to squat down on the floor and bend down to pick up toys at this season. Eventually, you probably will need to put some strength exercises in, so that you also are going to be able to keep muscle and lift up things. But what I want you to do is, I want you to think about the time in your life. If you're in a season with small little children, you shouldn't be worried if you can't do 5 hours in the gym. Okay. But so many of us are. We feel less than, we feel lack, we feel like we're not good enough, we feel really insufficient, we feel like we can't. Instead of embracing the moments that we have right now and the joy and being grateful for who we have here in front of us, and just saying, you know what, I'm going to do my stretching while I'm reaching for the Lego. And I might just, squat a few times as I'm like lifting up the toy bucket. And I might, or I might be taking and grabbing my toddler and just squatting a few times while he's giggling like crazy. Okay. It's becoming curious about, what does our pain look like? What is this room that we're in right now? What is our phase of life? And not to get swept up by comparinitis of the internet and trying to figure out, oh, look at this neighbor who's like, having no kids and like a perfect life with emptiness inside. Who knows, right? I mean, what we think is perfect, they might not think is perfect. But we may think they have a perfect life and they're miserable, and vice versa. And it doesn't really matter what the others are doing. What matters is what you think is perfect. What you think your life should be like. What you think your room should look like. Okay? And if you want a neutral kind of colored room, don't keep splattering the red paint on it. Right? You need to then understand and say, oh, you know what? Red paint is going to be for a little bit later. Right now, we want to paint with the beige, or vice versa, because otherwise your result won't be what you want to do. Okay, so that's important. So you need to make sure, don't overwhelm yourself with all the 50,000 things. Figure out, what room are you in? What is it supposed to look like? What can you do today with your tools? Make it measurable, make it achievable, prioritize. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that you can never do all these different aspects, because we have needs, right? We have a relationship need right now. We have a health need right now. We have a personal need right now. So what could that look like for you? If you don't go 55 hours a week, if you go 10 minutes a day, what would that look like? What would be your prioritize? What is the one thing that you can do towards that goal? Could you eat better? Could you walk 5 minutes? Could you possibly send one love letter to your husband, or put a sticky note into the lunch bag, or stick something on the, like, let's say love language, words of affirmation. One thing you could do is you could every morning stick a sticky note on the mirror or put something in his lunchbox, right? Same with your kids. If you want to build a relationship with them, how could you do one thing a day that would communicate to them that you love them? Many years, and I'm going to share a quick example on that. I felt so bad of not being able to read stories to my kids. Language has always been a really big issue in my family because me being bilingual, I've always had a lot of guilt. I tried to explain to all the teachers as to why my kids are not able to, which is ridiculous because they speak amazing. They read a lot now, but for all these years looking back, I've had all this guilt. I felt horrible about not able to do it. I blamed so many people of like, I excused it, and I excuse it till today. Sometimes I catch myself when I'm saying, well, this is because I was by myself a lot. My husband traveled a lot. It's just me. Like, it's guilt and guilt and guilt. And it comes from being not feeling good enough, not feeling like I gave enough for that language goal that I had for my kiddos. And if that is you, and if you find somewhere that you feel so much guilt, I want you to know that now that they're all reading by themselves, it doesn't even matter because they read Greek mythology right now. Like, I don't even know they're learning stuff. Like, what they're learning, but they're learning. So they're on their own. What I have done, however, is I have instilled in them a level of curiosity. I have instilled in them a level, because that's who I am. I'm always curious about solutions. So now they are too. They want to know something and they just pick whatever they want to know. So the one thing I was worried and losing sleep over doesn't even matter anymore. But what I didn't pay attention to was what was more important. I instilled the level of curiosity in them, the drive for curiosity, and the belief that they could find any information they wanted to if they're looking for it. That was the meat and potatoes that I subconsciously just instilled in them, right? But my level of focus was on lack. I don't have time. I can't. I blame. We need to be aware of what we are working with right now, and then try to flip it to where's the gratitude. What are we doing right? We focus so many things on this is what we do wrong, but where are we doing things right? That's what's important here with the prioritizing the goals, right? So we say maybe we don't have half an hour per child to read every single night, but I do have 5 minutes while we're in the car driving, right? And maybe sometimes people say, well, I don't have time here, but maybe I can make time here. Maybe I can read them while they're eating. Maybe I can just listen to an audiobook as I'm driving because that's the best I can do right now. See, this is my example with the reading and the guilt. And what I want you to do now is I want you to take a look at where are you feeling most guilty on with anything of these pillars: your health, your life, your relationships. Where do you feel most guilty on? And then you need to become curious. What do I want this room to look like? What can I do? How much paint could I use? What could that look like? Okay. And yes, do as much as you can, but sometimes you have to prioritize. Sometimes your living room needs to be done first, and your basement can wait a little bit. Think about it. It's like building a house. Sometimes you need a foundation first. Okay. The walls and the roof are going to come by itself. See, I built a foundation of curiosity in my kids. I built a level of trust that they can research anything they want to. And now they're building the walls on their own because we are past the phase of me feeling guilty of not being able to read bedtime stories because I always had to make sure one didn't fall down the stairs while the other one didn't sit still, and the third one was thirsty all the time. Like it was just, I mean, I couldn't get through one sentence. And it was horrible. I felt awful about it. And I felt so sorry for myself for years. I didn't have a grandma that was able to read, and that my husband didn't want to read, and that, felt so guilty about it. What a waste of precious life energy that I had there. I could have rather enjoyed the moments and just laughed it off, chuckled it off, and embraced the season of like, this is nuts. And I'm going to just put an audiobook on while we all like snuggle on the couch, because honestly, I'm even too tired to even read your story. Right? I mean, it's like, but that's the next best thing. This is what I want you to do today. I really want you to think, what could that look like? Just be curious about it. Give yourself grace. Be grateful for the moments that you have, and faith and trust that it'll work out. Let me look back at my notes because this all just came from from somehow. Okay, so develop your vision. I've covered that, I think. Prioritize. Da, 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 da. Yeah, I think overall I've covered every single thing that I wanted to cover in my lesson here today. So I'm going to open up the floor. Any questions? If you don't have any questions, that's totally okay. You can ask me the questions later if you think of it, you can, send me a message and I can cover it next time. But yeah, I mean, that's what I want to say. Let's walk free the shame and the guilt and the comparison that you may feel with other people's goals, and embrace the courage and the vision of what your life should look like, your perfect life should look like. Okay. What I think, and this is the beauty about this program, right? What I think for me is not what I need you to think for you. Okay. Every person has a different vision of what their good will look like, what their happy will look like. And yes, we have in general good, like same ideas, and, birds of a feather flock together, and, but there's always different shades and color, right? And the beauty is to find yours, to take inspiration from other people, but find yours. That's where duplication comes in. That's where it really is. Okay, that's where open-mindedness comes in, the core values that I want to instill in people, the fact that you live and you let live, you allow yourself, but you will also allow others, right? And that you come up with this win and win and win. Because when you win, when you have the room the way you want it, you let the others have their rooms also, and all of you are in one house, and everybody is happy in each in the space. That's the win-win and win. That's how you achieve goals. Look what you need to have. What do you want to have? What season you are in? What phase you are in? What actions you can take and do? And then walk them one step at a time. All right, I'm going to stop the recording. I'll see you next week for the training. And any questions in between, please feel free to message me and just ask the question.